The holographic display flickered to life, showing thousands of alien faces staring down at Commander Lisa Morgan. She stood alone on the speaking platform, her dark blue uniform pressed and perfect, but her hands were clenched behind her back. The Galactic Council chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from over 200 species, and right now every single one of them was watching her. Lisa had been a soldier for 15 years. She had fought pirates in the outer colonies. She had negotiated trade disputes with alien merchants who thought humans were too young to matter, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The lead counselor, a tall creature with gray skin and forearms named Zelkoroth, spoke first. His voice boomed through the chamber without any device to amplify it. His species could do that naturally. Commander Morgan, humanity has been given many chances. You have expanded into 30 systems in just 50 years. You build colonies on worlds we designated as protected zones. You ignore our warnings. You trade weapons technology to species we have forbidden from arming themselves. The time for patience has ended. Lisa looked up at him. She did not flinch. The worlds we colonized were empty. No one lived there. No one claimed them. We followed every rule in the colonization treaty. Another counselor stood. This one looked like a floating jellyfish made of crystal, glowing with soft blue light. Its voice came from a translator device. You misunderstand your place, human. The treaty allows colonization only with council approval. You did not seek approval. You simply took what you wanted. Because waiting for approval takes decades, Lisa shot back. We submitted requests for 15 worlds. 5 years later, we are still waiting for an answer on the first one. Meanwhile, our people need places to live. We have 12 billion humans and only one habitable world. What were we supposed to do? Wait patiently while our species suffers? Zelkoroth slammed one of his fists on his podium. The sound echoed like thunder. You will do as the council commands. That is what younger species do. You learn, you obey. You earn the right to expand through centuries of service. Centuries? Lisa felt her anger rising but kept her voice steady. Our entire recorded history is only 10,000 years old. You want us to wait centuries to be treated as equals? The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens arguing in dozens of languages, their translators creating a wall of sound. Some seemed to agree with Lisa. Most did not. The jellyfish counselor spoke again, and somehow its voice cut through the chaos. This is exactly the problem. Humanity believes it deserves equality simply for existing. You have not proven yourselves. You have not demonstrated the wisdom required for true membership in this council. You are children playing with weapons you barely understand. Lisa was about to respond when she noticed something. In the observation gallery, far above the main chamber floor, sat a figure that did not match any species she recognized. The lighting was dim up there, but she could make out silver hair that seemed to glow with its own light, and eyes that burned violet even from this distance. The figure was humanoid, feminine, and she sat perfectly still while every other observer was chattering or moving or recording. She simply watched, and something about her gaze made Lisa feel like she was the only person in the room who truly understood what was happening here. Then Lisa saw something else. Through the massive, transparent dome that formed one wall of the station, she spotted a ship unlike anything she had ever seen. It was elegant, built from what looked like living wood twisted into impossible curves, and coiled around its hull was something enormous. At first, Lisa thought it was part of the ship design. Then it moved. It was a creature, a dragon, not the fairy tale kind from Earth stories, but something far more magnificent and terrifying. Its scales reflected starlight in colors that did not have names. Its wings were folded, but even folded, they wrapped around the entire ship. Its eyes, even from this distance across space, glowed the same violet as the mysterious woman in the gallery. Lisa realized she had stopped paying attention to Zelkoroth, who was now listing demands. She forced herself to focus. Humanity will dismantle 20 colonies immediately. You will submit to council oversight on all remaining worlds. You will hand over your weapons development programs for review. You will cease all independent diplomatic relations with other species, and you will pay reparations for every treaty violation. These terms are not negotiable. You have 30 planetary rotations to comply. Failure to comply will result in military enforcement. The chamber went silent. Every eye, every sensor, every consciousness in the room focused on Lisa Morgan. This was the moment. She could accept the terms. She could save humanity from war with species that had been traveling the stars for millions of years. She could be the reasonable one, the diplomat, the one who bent so that humanity would not break. But she thought about the colonists on New Terra, farming the land and building homes and finally having room to breathe. She thought about the research stations where human scientists were making discoveries that would cure diseases and extend lives. She thought about the children being born on those colonies who had never seen Earth, who deserved to grow up free. No, Lisa said simply. The word hung in the air like a blade. Zelkoroth leaned forward. What did you say? I said no. Humanity rejects these terms. We will not dismantle our colonies. We will not submit to your oversight. We will not hand over our technology, and we will not pay for the crime of trying to survive. The chamber exploded. Aliens were shouting, some in rage, some in disbelief, a few in what might have been approval. Guards moved toward the platform. Zelkoroth was roaring something about treason and consequences. Lisa stood her ground. She keyed her communicator, knowing her words were being broadcast to every human ship and colony in the galaxy. Earth Command, this is Morgan. Recommendation Alpha 7. Repeat Alpha 7. Alpha 7 was the code for complete withdrawal. It meant humanity was done pretending the Council was fair. It meant war was coming. As guards surrounded her, Lisa looked up one more time at the mysterious woman in the gallery. The woman stood now, and even from this distance Lisa could see a small smile on her face. Not cruel, not mocking. Something else. Recognition, maybe. Or respect. Then the woman turned and walked away, vanishing into shadows that seemed darker than they should be. Lisa was escorted from the chamber, but she did not resist. She had done what she came to do. She had told the galaxy that humanity would rather fight than kneel. On her ship 3 hours later, after being expelled from Council space with a formal declaration of sanctions, Lisa sat in her quarters reviewing reports. Earth had already announced its withdrawal from the Galactic Council. Every human colony was fortifying defenses. The frontier worlds were preparing for siege. A chime at her door interrupted her reading. She called out for whoever it was to enter, expecting one of her officers. Instead, the silver-haired woman from the gallery walked in. Lisa jumped to her feet, hand moving toward her sidearm. How did you get on my ship? We are at high security. The woman raised one hand gently. Please, Commander. I'm not here to harm you. I am here because you need to understand what you have just done. Her voice was strange. It sounded like wind through ancient trees, like music that was almost too beautiful to bear. She wore robes that shimmered between silver and deep purple, and now that Lisa saw her up close, she realized this woman was not quite human. Her features were too perfect, too symmetrical. Her eyes held depths that suggested she had lived far longer than any human ever had. Who are you? Lisa demanded. My name is Elindra. I am the last of a species called the Silvari, and I am here to warn you that the Galactic Council fears what it cannot control. They destroyed my people for the same reason they will destroy yours. Lisa felt cold. What do you mean, destroyed? The Council said they never engage in genocide. Elindra smiled sadly. The Council says many things. They have erased over 40 species from existence, Commander. They rewrite history so no one remembers. They destroy evidence so no one can prove it. My people defied them 3,000 years ago. Within a century we were extinct. Or so they believe. But you survived. I survived because of Starfire. Elindra walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. That is my bonded companion, the dragon you saw at the station. He is one of the last star dragons, creatures that exist partially outside normal space and time. He hid me in the void between galaxies while my civilization burned. Lisa sat down slowly. Why are you telling me this? Elindra turned back to her, and those violet eyes blazed with something fierce. Because you have something my people never did, Commander. You have the will to fight back. We tried to negotiate. We tried to compromise. We believed the Council could be reasoned with. We were wrong. By the time we understood the truth, it was too late. So you think we should fight them? I think you already are. The question is whether you want to survive it. Elindra moved closer. I can help you, Commander. I know their strategies. I know their weaknesses. I know where they hide their weapons and what they truly fear. And more than that, I know the truth about this galaxy, a truth the County Sil has spent millions of years concealing. Lisa studied the woman before her. Every instinct told her this was danger. Captain Amy Hayes watched the sensor displays with growing dread. 37 Council warships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the new Terra system. Her defense fleet consisted of 8 human vessels, most of them converted cargo haulers with weapons bolted onto their hulls. This was not a battle. This was an execution. All ships battle stations, Amy ordered, keeping her voice calm even though her heart was racing. Deploy defensive satellites. Activate the minefield. Her tactical officer, a young woman named Beth Carter, looked up from her console. Captain, the mines will only slow them down. Those are Council dreadnoughts. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Then we hit them until their shields fail, Amy said. We are not running. These colonists trusted us to protect them. New Terra sprawled below them, a beautiful world of green continents and blue oceans. 5 million humans lived there now, farming and building and creating a new civilization. Most of them were families who had left Earth looking for a better life. Amy had promised the governor she would give them time to evacuate if an attack came, but there was no time now. The Council fleet was accelerating toward them at impossible speeds. The lead Council ship broadcast a message. The voice was cold and mechanical, filtered through a translator. Human vessels, you are in violation of Council Mandate 17 Alpha. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to comply. Amy opened a channel to all her ships. This is Hayes. Hold formation. Make them work for it. And remember, every second we survive is another second our people have to live. Fire at will. The battle began with humanity striking first. Missiles and plasma bolts streaked across the void. And for a brief moment, Amy felt hope as she saw explosions bloom against Council shields. But the shields held. They always held. Then the Council returned fire, and hope died. The first human ship, a destroyer named Courage, vanished in a ball of white fire. Its shields collapsed in seconds. Its hull melted. 1,200 crew members gone in an instant. Amy forced herself to watch to bear witness even as her hands shook. All ships evasive pattern Delta, she commanded. Focus fire on their lead vessel. Concentrate everything we have, they tried. They fought with everything they had. But Council technology was thousands of years more advanced. Their weapons cut through human shields like they were not even there. Another ship exploded. Then another. Amy was preparing to give the order to ram the nearest Council dreadnought, to at least take one of them down, when something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open. A rift of violet light split the darkness between the human fleet and the Council ships. It was beautiful and terrifying, like watching reality break. And through that rift came starfire. The dragon was even more magnificent up close than it had been at the Council station. Its scales reflected every color Amy had ever seen and dozens more she had no names for. Its wings spread wide enough to shadow 3 of the Council dreadnoughts. Its eyes blazed with violet fire that made Amy want to look away and stare at the same time. Starfire opened its mouth and roared. The sound should not have carried through the vacuum of space, but Amy heard it anyway. It resonated inside her chest, inside her bones, inside her very soul. Then the dragon breathed. It was not fire. It was not plasma. It was something else entirely. Something that looked like lightning made of pure starlight. The energy washed over every ship in the system, Council and human alike, and every single vessel went dark. Engines died. Weapons powered down. Life support flickered. Even Amy's command chair stopped responding. Emergency backup systems kicked in after a few seconds, bathing the bridge in red emergency lighting. Amy stared at her displays as they slowly came back online. Every ship in the system was dead in space, drifting without power. What just happened? Beth whispered. Before Amy could answer, a small craft detached from the wooden ship that had appeared behind Starfire. It moved without any visible means of propulsion, gliding toward Amy's flagship like a leaf on water. Captain, we have an incoming vessel, her tactical officer reported. No weapons. Single life sign aboard. It is requesting permission to dock. Amy already knew who it was. Grant permission. And send a security team to the docking bay. Full weapons, but do not fire unless I give the order. 10 minutes later, Amy stood in her docking bay watching Elindra step off her craft. The elf woman moved with impossible grace, her silver hair floating around her as if she were underwater. She smiled at the 12 armed soldiers pointing rifles at her. Captain Hayes, Elindra said warmly. I apologize for the dramatic entrance. Starfire can be a bit theatrical when he wants to make a point. You disabled my entire fleet, Amy said coldly. You left us defenseless. I saved your entire fleet, Elindra corrected gently. The Council ships were moments away from destroying you. Now they float in the dark just as helpless as you are. Your systems will restore in approximately 1 hour. Theirs will take 3. That gives us time to talk. Amy wanted to argue, but the elf woman was right. Without Starfire, New Terra would already be burning. Talk about what? About why the Council truly wants to destroy humanity. About what they did to my people. And about how we can work together to stop them from doing it again. Elindra gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the air between them. It showed images Amy had never seen before. Alien cities burning, worlds cracking apart, species being erased from existence while Council ships watched. The Galactic Council was not always evil, Elindra began. Millions of years ago it was created to prevent war and foster cooperation. But over time, the elder species that controlled it became afraid. Afraid of younger races. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing their power. She manipulated the display, showing more images. So they created protocols, secret plans. Whenever a species showed too much independence, too much innovation, too much potential, the Council would activate these protocols. They would manufacture a crisis. They would claim the species was dangerous. And then they would eliminate the threat. Amy stared at the images. How many species have they done this to? 43 that I know of. Probably more. They are very good at hiding the evidence. They rewrite historical records. They destroy artifacts. They even modify the memories of witnesses using technology that most species do not know exists. Elindra waved her hand, and the display showed a beautiful world covered in forests that seemed to glow with inner light. This was my home, Silvera. We were artists and philosophers. We built cities that sang with the wind. We never wanted war, but we invented a technology that frightened the Council, a way to travel between dimensions, to exist in multiple realities at once. They demanded we hand it over. We refused. The image changed. The forests were burning. The cities were rubble. Bodies lay in the streets. They came in the night. Elindra continued, her voice barely above a whisper. No warning. No declaration of war. They simply began exterminating us. 50 billion Silveri died in the first week. Within a year, our species was extinct, or so the Council believed. But you survived, Amy said. Starfire saved me. Star dragons exist partially outside normal space. He pulled me into the dimensional void and hid me there for 3,000 years, while the Council erased every trace of my people from galactic history. When I finally emerged, no one remembered the Silvari. Our worlds had been given to other species. Our art had been destroyed. Our very existence had been written out of reality. Amy felt sick. And you think they plan to do the same to humanity? I know they do. I have seen the signs before. The unreasonable demands, the manufactured crises, the lies about how dangerous you are. Commander Morgan triggered their protocols when she refused to submit. Now the countdown has begun. They will try to destroy you, and then they will erase you from history. One of Amy's security officers, a man named Luke Peters, spoke up. Why should we trust you? You are a stranger from a dead species. How do we know this is not some trick? Elindra looked at him with those ancient violet eyes. You do not know. You have no reason to trust me except the evidence before you. But consider this. If I wanted to harm humanity, why would Starfire have saved your fleet? Why would I be here warning you instead of letting the Council finish what they started? Amy made a decision. She had been a soldier long enough to recognize truth when she heard it, and every instinct told her Elindra was sincere. What do you want from us? An alliance. I want to help humanity survive, and in return, I want your help bringing down the Galactic Council. I want justice for my people. I want to make sure no other species ever suffers what the Silvari suffered. Before Amy could respond, her communications officer interrupted. Captain, we are receiving a priority message from the surface. Dr. Kate Sullivan is requesting immediate contact. She says it is urgent, Amy frowned. Kate was a xenoarchaeologist, studying ancient ruins the colonists had found in New Terra's southern continent. Put her through. Kate's face appeared on a display screen. She looked excited and frightened at the same time. Captain, you need to see this. We found something in the ruins, writing, technology, and it matches descriptions of the species this woman just told you about. Elindra stepped forward, staring at the screen. Where? Deep underground, Kate explained. The ruins are at least 3,000 years old. And Captain, there is a message. It was left for whoever found it. The message says, if you are reading this, the Council has likely destroyed us. Do not let them do the same to you. Coordinates follow. Find our weapons. Fight back. Amy looked at Elindra. Your people knew this would happen. Some of us suspected, Elindra admitted. In our final days, a few Sylvari tried to prepare. They hid weapons caches across the galaxy, hoping some future species might find them and have a chance to resist. I searched for them for centuries after I emerged from the void, but I never found any. Until now, Amy took a deep breath. This was bigger than one battle. Bigger than New Terra. This was about the survival of the human species and possibly dozens of others. Dr. Sullivan, download those coordinates and send them to my ship immediately. Then get your team to safety. The Council fleet will restore power soon. Amy turned to Elindra. You have your alliance. We will help you bring down the Council. But first we need those weapons. Elindra smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Then we have work to do, Captain. And I suggest we hurry. The Council does not forgive defiance, and they are going to be very angry when they discover what we just did. Outside the ship, Starfire circled New Terra, his wings creating auroras in the upper atmosphere. The dragon seemed to sense that the war had truly begun. And across the galaxy in the darkened Council chambers, alarms began to sound as sensors detected something impossible. Silvery technology had just activated for the first time in 3,000 years. Admiral Grace Porter stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defiant studying the tactical map floating before her. Red dots marked Council military installations across 17 systems. Blue dots showed human strike forces positioned in the shadows, waiting for her command. This was Operation Shadowfall, and it would either cripple the Council or doom humanity forever. All teams report ready, her operations officer announced. We are synchronized and waiting for your order, Admiral. Grace looked at Elindra, who stood beside her like a silver ghost. The elf woman had spent 3 weeks teaching human commanders everything she knew about Council security, their patrol patterns, their blind spots, their arrogance. Now it was time to put that knowledge to use. Remember, Elindra said quietly, the Council believes themselves untouchable. They have not faced real opposition in millions of years. Use their confidence against them. Grace nodded and opened a fleet-wide channel. All units, this is Porter. Operation Shadowfall is active. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and get out before they know what happened. Make them afraid. Show them that humanity does not kneel. Execute. Across the galaxy, human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and struck. Captain Claire Bennett led her squadron against a Council supply depot in the Zerian system. They appeared without warning, launched their missiles, and were gone before the station defenses even activated. Behind them, fuel reserves burned and supply ships exploded in cascading detonations. Commander Nina Wells took her stealth ships deep into Council space and planted electromagnetic mines on trade routes. When Council convoys passed by, the mines activated, leaving entire fleets stranded and helpless in the void. Lieutenant Helen Ross led ground forces on hit-and-run raids against Council garrisons, stealing supplies and weapons before vanishing into wilderness. That human soldiers knew how to navigate far better than their alien enemies. But the real terror came from Starfire. The dragon moved through space like a nightmare made real. One moment, the Council fleet in the Tarvos system was patrolling peacefully. The next, Starfire materialized above them, having stepped through dimensions that the Council did not even know existed. The dragon breathed its strange starlight fire, and shields that had never failed simply melted away. Hulls cracked. Ships broke apart. And before reinforcements could arrive, Starfire and Elindra vanished back into the dimensional void. Admiral Karen White was coordinating the attacks from human headquarters when the reports started flooding in. Admiral Porter, we are receiving confirmation from all strike teams. Every target has been hit. Council forces are in complete disarray. Grace allowed herself a small smile. How many casualties on our side? Minimal. We lost 3 ships total. The Council has lost over 40 installations and 200 vessels. And Admiral, you need to see this. Karen pulled up a broadcast being transmitted across Council space. It showed grainy footage of Starfire tearing through a Council dreadnought, Elindra riding on the dragon's back like some ancient warrior goddess. Her silver hair streamed behind her, and her violet eyes blazed with fury as she directed Starfire's attacks with perfect precision. The footage had been captured by survivors, and now it was spreading across the galactic network faster than the Council could suppress it. Alien species that had never heard of the Sylvari were now watching one of them destroy their oppressors. Grace heard the whispers among her crew. Some called Alindra the Phantom Queen. Others called Starfire the Star Eater. The names were spreading, becoming legend. Alindra herself seemed uncomfortable with the attention. "I did not want to become a symbol of fear," she told Grace later that evening as they reviewed battle reports. "I wanted justice, not terror." "Sometimes they are the same thing," Grace replied. "The Council terrorized species for millions of years. Now they know what it feels like." 3 days into Operation Shadowfall, the Council finally responded. And they responded by doing exactly what Alindra had predicted they would do. They attacked Earth. Commander Megan Cross was on duty at Earth Defense Command when the sensors detected incoming ships. A lot of ships. Her blood went cold as the count kept climbing. 50 vessels. 100. 200. The largest Council fleet ever assembled, all converging on humanity's homeworld. "Sound the alarm," Megan ordered, her voice steady despite her fear. "Activate all defense platforms. Recall every ship within 10 light years. And somebody get Admiral Porter on the line now." The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like an angry swarm. They formed a blockade around Earth, their weapons charging, their shields at maximum. The lead ship broadcast a message that was heard on every device on the planet. "Humans of Earth, your rebellion ends today. Surrender Commander Morgan, Admiral Porter, and the Sylvari fugitive. Dismantle your military. Submit to Council authority. You have 1 hour to comply or your world burns." Megan looked at her officers. Every face showed the same mixture of fear and defiance. Earth only had 40 defense platforms and 30 ships in orbit. They could not win this fight. "Send the response we prepared," Megan said quietly. A simple message broadcast back to the Council fleet. Just 2 words. "Come try." The Council enforcer leading the fleet, a creature called Calvex who had crushed a dozen rebellions, did not hesitate. He gave the order to fire. Earth's defense platforms opened up with everything they had. Railguns that could crack mountains launched projectiles at relativistic speeds. Missile batteries released thousands of warheads. Laser arrays focused enough energy to vaporize asteroids. It was not enough. Council shields absorbed the barrage easily. Return fire lanced down from orbit, and defense platforms began exploding. One by one, Earth's guardians died. The human ships fought valiantly, ramming Council vessels when their weapons ran dry, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Megan watched the tactical display with tears streaming down her face. This was it. This was how humanity died. She reached for the button that would activate Earth's final defense. A network of nuclear mines that would turn the planet's orbit into a death trap. At least they would take some Council ships with them. Then Alindra's voice came over every communication channel on Earth and in orbit. "Hold your fire, Commander. Help is coming." Space around Earth erupted in light, all across Council territory, hidden in asteroid fields and nebulas and dark matter clouds. Ancient machines awakened. Silvery defense stations that had waited 3,000 years for activation suddenly came online. They were beautiful and deadly, built from crystalline materials that should not have been able to exist, and they opened fire on every Council vessel they could detect. In the Koloth system, a Council shipyard vanished in a blast of energy that rivaled a supernova. In the Vril sector, an entire patrol fleet found themselves under attack by weapons that tore through shields like paper. In the Zelthor home system, defense satellites that had protected the capital for 1,000,000 years suddenly targeted the planet they were meant to defend. The Council fleet at Earth received emergency broadcasts from across their territory. They were under attack everywhere at once. Their empire was burning. Calvex faced an impossible choice. Continue attacking Earth and let his civilization crumble, or retreat and save what he could. He chose retreat. The Council fleet withdrew, leaving Earth battered but alive. Megan collapsed into her chair, overwhelmed by relief and exhaustion. Around her, her officers were cheering, crying, hugging each other. Earth had survived, but the war was far from over. Admiral Porter received reports of what was happening across the galaxy. The Sylvari wept. Ons had triggered a cascade effect. Species that had lived under Council oppression for thousands of years saw their chance. Rebellions erupted on dozens of worlds. Colonies declared independence. Entire sectors rose up against their Council overlords. The galaxy was fragmenting. Grace met with Alindra and the human leadership to discuss what came next. Among them was Ambassador Lauren Parks, a diplomat who had been preparing for this moment. "The Council is fracturing," Lauren said, displaying intelligence reports. "Half their member species are in open revolt. The other half are fighting each other for dominance. We have an opportunity here." "To do what?" asked Admiral Karen White. "Invade? Conquer? Become what they were?" "To offer something better," Elindra said. "The Council ruled through fear and force. You can rule through cooperation and respect. Build alliances with the species that are rebelling. Show them that there is another way." Lisa Morgan, who had been recalled from the frontier to help coordinate the war effort, spoke up. "We are still fighting for our survival. Half the Council might be in chaos, but the other half wants us dead. The Zelthor Imperium still has thousands of ships. The Vril Collective still controls the most advanced technology in the galaxy. This is not over." "No," Elindra agreed. "It is not." But the tide has turned. For the first time in millions of years, the Council is afraid, and fear makes people desperate. As if to prove her point, intelligence reports started coming in of Council forces using weapons they had previously banned: biological agents, planet crackers, reality-warping bombs that left entire systems uninhabitable. Grace read the reports with growing horror. "They are willing to destroy everything rather than lose control." "Then we need to stop them before they do," Elindra said. "The weapons caches we found contain more than just defense stations. They contain the key to ending this war, but we must move quickly." Captain Amy Hayes, fresh from another successful raid, joined the Council via hologram. "Admiral, our scouts report that the Council is withdrawing forces from the frontier. They are concentrating everything on their core systems. It looks like they are preparing for a final battle." Grace looked around the room at the faces of the people who had become humanity's war council. They were tired. They were scared, but they were also determined. "Then we give them one," Grace said. "We take the fight to their capital. We end this once and for all." Elindra nodded slowly. "If we do this, there is no turning back. The Council will throw everything they have at us. Billions will die. Billions are already dying," Lisa said quietly. "Every day this war continues, more species suffer. More worlds burn. If we have a chance to end it, we have to take it." Grace made the decision. "Prepare the fleet. We move on the Council capital in 1 week. All available ships, all available forces, this is it. We either win our freedom or die trying." Outside the command center, Starfire circled in the night sky, visible from the ground as a streak of violet light. The dragon seemed to sense what was coming. The final battle. The moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. And across the stars in the ruins of Council space, millions of beings looked up at the sky and wondered if the old order was truly ending, or if something even worse was about to be born. The war had entered its final phase, and no one knew how it would end. The warning came at 0300 hours, when most of the colony of Haven's Reach was asleep. Captain Claire Bennett was in her quarters when the alarm started screaming. She threw on her uniform and ran to the command center, her heart already knowing something terrible was coming. "Report," she barked as she entered. Her sensor officer, a woman named Diane Foster, looked up with terror in her eyes. "Captain, we are detecting a massive energy signature building in the Krath Nebula. The signature matches nothing in our database. Whatever it is drawing power from an entire star system." Claire felt ice in her veins. "How long until it reaches critical levels?" 4 hours, maybe less." Diane pulled up a projection. "Captain, if this thing fires and it is aimed at us, our shields will not stop it." "Nothing will stop it." Claire opened a fleet-wide emergency channel. "This is Bennett to all ships in ground command. Begin immediate evacuation protocols. I want every transport, every cargo ship, every vessel that can carry people loading civilians now. We have less than 4 hours." The colony erupted into controlled chaos. 3 billion people lived on Haven's Reach. The planet had farms, cities, schools, hospitals. It was one of the most successful human colonies, a symbol of what humanity could build when given the chance. And now they had 4 hours to save as many as they could. Claire coordinated the evacuation from orbit, watching transport ships rise from the surface in an endless stream. But the numbers were brutal. Even working perfectly, they could only evacuate maybe 500 million people before the weapon fired. That left 2.5 billion to die. "Keep loading," Claire ordered, refusing to give up. "Every person we save is a victory." 2 hours into the evacuation, long-range sensors identified the weapon. It was massive, built from technology that predated even the oldest council species. The station was the size of a small moon, and it was drawing so much power that the nearby star was visibly dimming. Admiral Grace Porter's voice came over the command channel. "Claire, we are sending everything we have to support the evacuation. But there is something else you need to know. Intelligence just identified that weapon. It is called the Void Reaper. The Council buried all records of it, but Elindra remembered. Her people found references to it in ancient archives." "What does it do?" Claire asked, though part of her did not want to know. "It sterilizes solar systems, turns them into dead zones where nothing can live. The Council built it millions of years ago as their ultimate deterrent. They have never used it before because the weapon is so destructive that it violates every moral code in the galaxy, until now." Claire looked at the planet below, at the lights of cities where families were huddling together, at the transport ships desperately trying to save as many as they could. "They are willing to murder 3 billion people to make a point." "They are desperate," Grace said quietly. "Desperate people do desperate things. We are sending Elindra and Starfire. If anyone can stop that weapon, it is them." The dragon appeared an hour later, materializing from the dimensional void in a blaze of violet light. Elindra guided Starfire toward the Void Reaper, and Claire watched on her sensors as they approached the massive weapon station. She opened a private channel to Elindra. "Please tell me you have a plan." Elindra's voice sounded tired. "I am going to try to disrupt the weapon from inside. Starfire can phase through the station's hull. If we can reach the power core, perhaps we can overload it. And if you cannot..." There was a long pause. "Then I will stay inside when it fires. Perhaps Starfire's dimensional abilities can create enough interference to weaken the blast. It might give your people more time to evacuate." Claire felt her throat tighten. "That would kill you." "I have lived 3,000 years, Captain. I have seen my entire species die. If my death can save yours, it is a fair trade." "No," another voice cut in. It was engineer Nina Wells broadcasting from her research vessel. "There might be another way. Captain Bennett, Admiral Porter, I need you to listen. Our experimental slipspace drive creates tiny dimensional rifts. We use them to travel faster than light. But the theory suggests that a large enough rift could redirect energy. If we combine that with Starfire's natural dimensional abilities, we might be able to redirect the Void Reaper's blast." Grace's voice was sharp. "Redirect it where?" "That much energy has to go somewhere." Nina hesitated. "Back to its source. We would be sending the weapon's full power directly back to the station that fired it." Claire understood immediately. "The station is in orbit around the Council capital world. If the weapon backfires, it will hit their homeworld." "Yes," Nina said softly. "Billions of Council citizens would die. Their capital, their government, their leadership, everything would be destroyed." The channel went silent. Everyone understood what they were being asked to do. This was not a military target. This was genocide in response to attempted genocide. Admiral Grace Porter made the decision. "Do it. If they fire that weapon at Haven's Reach, we send it back." They chose this path. "We are just making sure they understand the consequences." Elindra spoke again, her voice filled with something that might have been sorrow. "I will need help. Nina, bring your ship close to the Void Reaper. We must coordinate perfectly." The next 30 minutes were the longest of Claire's life. She watched as Nina's small research vessel positioned itself near the massive weapon station. She watched as Starfire circled the Void Reaper, preparing for what came next. And she watched the evacuation continue, knowing they would not get everyone out in time. Then the Void Reaper fired. Energy unlike anything Claire had ever seen erupted from the weapon. It was not a beam. It was more like reality itself was tearing open, revealing nothing but darkness and death on the other side. The blast started moving toward Haven's Reach at impossible speed. Starfire moved. The dragon flew directly into the path of the weapon's fire. Claire screamed, certain she was about to watch Elindra and her companion die. But Starfire spread his wings wide and opened a diamond. Cyanal Rift, a tear in space that blazed with violet light. Nina's ship activated its slipspace drive at the exact same moment. The two technologies, one ancient and mystical, one modern and scientific, merged together. The rift expanded, growing larger and larger until it swallowed the entire Void Reaper blast. For a moment, nothing happened. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the rift reversed. All that terrible energy, all that death and destruction roared backward through the dimensional tear. It moved faster than light, guided by Starfire's will and Nina's calculations. It traveled across the galaxy in seconds, and it emerged in orbit around the Council capital world. The Void Reaper station exploded first, torn apart by its own weapon. Then the blast continued downward, slamming into the planet below with the force of 1,000 dying stars. The world's shields, the strongest in the galaxy, lasted less than a second. Cities that had stood for millions of years vanished. Oceans boiled away. The atmosphere burned. In 30 seconds, the Council capital went from the most powerful world in the galaxy to a scorched, lifeless rock. Billions died. The entire Council leadership, their military command, their cultural centers, their history, everything that made them who they were, ceased to exist. Claire watched it happen through the sensor feeds and felt sick. They had just committed the same atrocity the Council tried to commit. They had just killed billions of innocent people. The dimensional rift collapsed, and Starfire tumbled out of it, falling toward Haven's Reach. The dragon was wounded. His scales cracked and bleeding light instead of blood. His wings were torn. He crashed into the ocean with a splash that could be seen from orbit. Claire immediately dispatched rescue ships. They found Starfire floating in the water, barely conscious. Elindra lay on the dragon's back, her silver hair spread around her like a shroud. She was alive but barely moving. They brought them aboard the medical ship, and Claire rushed to see them. Elindra was in a recovery pod, her eyes open but unfocused. When she saw Claire, tears started streaming down her face. "I never wanted this," Elindra whispered. "I wanted justice for my people. I wanted the Council to answer for their crimes. But not like this. Not by killing billions of innocents who had nothing to do with the decisions their leaders made." Claire sat beside her. "You saved 3 billion lives today. Haven's Reach is still here because of you. At the cost of how many Council lives? Their children. Their families. People who were just living their lives, who never hurt anyone." Elindra closed her eyes. "I have become the monster I was fighting against." "No," Claire said firmly. "The Council fired first. They chose to use that weapon. You just made sure the consequences fell on them instead of us. That does not make you a monster. It makes you a survivor." Elindra did not respond. She just lay there, tears falling silently, mourning for the billions she had killed to save billions more. Admiral Grace Porter called an emergency meeting of all human leadership and their allies. Lisa Morgan was there. Amy Hayes, Karen White, Nina Wells, and dozens of others. They all looked shaken by what had happened. "The Council is broken," Grace said, pulling up tactical maps. "Their capital is gone. Their leadership is dead. Their military is in chaos. Intelligence reports that half their remaining species are surrendering. The other half are fighting each other for whatever scraps of power remain." "So we won," Amy said quietly, but there was no celebration in her voice. "We survived," Lisa corrected. "But at what cost? We just killed more people in 30 seconds than died in the entire war up to this point." Nina spoke up, her voice small. "I built the system that made it possible. I calculated the trajectory. Am I a murderer? Are we all murderers?" The room fell silent. No one had an answer. Ambassador Lauren Parks finally spoke. "What we did was terrible. But what the Council tried to do was also terrible. If we had not stopped them, Haven's Reach would be ash. 3 billion humans would be dead. We made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. That does not make it right," Amy said. "No," Lauren agreed. "It does not. But it makes it necessary. And now we have to live with it. All of us. We have to carry this weight and make sure we never forget what it cost." Grace stood up. "The war is not over yet. There are still Council forces out there. Still species that want revenge. Still chaos across the galaxy. But the balance has shifted. For the first time, we have the advantage. Now we have to decide what to do with it." Outside the medical ship, Starfire slowly healed in the ocean waters of Haven's Reach. The dragon's wounds closed, but something had changed. The light in his eyes was dimmer. The fire that burned within him seemed to have cooled. He had carried the full force of the Void Reaper through dimensions. He had felt billions of lives end because of his actions, and like Elindra, he would carry that burden forever. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would come next. The old order was dead. Humanity had won its freedom through fire and blood. But the hardest part still remained, building something better from the ashes. The galaxy burned, but not from war anymore. It burned from the fires of change, of revolution, of species that had lived under oppression for millions of years finally breaking free. Admiral Karen White stood in the command center watching reports flood in from across known space. Another system just declared independence, her aide reported. The Tarkis Federation wants to join our alliance. That makes 47 species in 3 weeks. Karen nodded, but her expression remained troubled. Victory should have felt better than this. Instead, she felt exhausted and haunted by the billions who had died on the council capital. Every night she saw their faces in her dreams, people she had never met but whose deaths she had helped cause. Ambassador Lauren Parks arrived for their daily briefing, carrying data tablets filled with diplomatic proposals. Lauren had been working non-stop since the council fell, trying to build something new from the chaos. "We need to make a decision," Lauren said without preamble. "Dozens of species are asking us to lead them. They want humanity to become the new galactic authority. They want us to fill the void the council left." "Absolutely not," Karen said immediately. "We did not fight a war for freedom just to become the next oppressors. We are not conquerors, I agree, but we need to offer them something. A framework, a system, something that prevents the galaxy from tearing itself apart." Lauren pulled up her proposal. "I have been working with representatives from 15 species. We call it the New Galactic Alliance. True equality. Voluntary membership. No species has authority over another. Decisions made by consensus, not force." Karen studied the document. It was idealistic, maybe too idealistic, but it was also exactly what the galaxy needed. What do the others think? Most support it. A few worry it will be too weak, that without centralized authority we will have chaos. But I think they are wrong. I think beings who are treated as equals will act more responsibly than those who are forced to obey. Before Karen could respond, alarms started blaring. "Admiral, we have incoming ships," the sensor officer shouted. "Hundreds of them. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system." Karen's blood went cold. "Which system?" "Sol. Earth. Admiral, they are heading straight for our homeworld." The Zelthor Imperium had been the most powerful military force in the old council. When their capital fell, they had scattered, regrouping in secret while everyone assumed they were defeated. Now they revealed themselves, launching one final desperate assault to destroy humanity and restore the old order. Commander Megan Cross was on duty at Earth Defense Command when the fleet appeared. She had rebuilt the orbital defenses after the last attack. But this fleet was even larger. 300 warships, all of them crewed by fanatics who believed the council was divinely ordained to rule. "All ships to defensive positions," Megan ordered. "Send emergency broadcast to every allied fleet in range. We need reinforcements now." The Zelthor fleet commander broadcast a message. His voice was filled with religious fury. "Humans, you have committed the ultimate blasphemy. You destroyed the sacred capital. You murdered the chosen leaders. You convinced lesser species to rebel against their rightful masters. For these crimes, your species will be erased from existence. Your world will be destroyed. Your name will be forgotten. The natural order will be restored." Megan sent back a simple reply. "Come and try." The battle began with the Zelthor fleet advancing in perfect formation. They were disciplined, experienced, and they believed completely in their cause. Earth's defenses opened fire, but the enemy's shields held. This was going to be brutal. Then allies started arriving. The first to appear were the Tarkis, bringing 50 warships. Then came the Velen Collective with 30 more. The Karathi sent their entire merchant fleet, armed civilian vessels crewed by volunteers. Even species that had been part of the council showed up, determined to fight for the new order rather than die defending the old one. Soon, Earth orbit was filled with over 200 allied ships from dozens of different species, all of them fighting together to protect humanity. Admiral Grace Porter took command of the defense, coordinating the allied fleet with practiced efficiency. Captain Amy Hayes led a squadron of fast attack ships, striking at the Zell. Thor flanks. Captain Claire Bennett commanded the heavy destroyers, trading fire with enemy dreadnoughts, but the Zelthor were winning. Their technology was still superior. Their ships were still stronger. Slowly, inevitably, they pushed through the Allied defenses toward Earth itself. That was when Starfire arrived. The dragon appeared from the dimensional void, and this time, Elindra was not alone. Riding beside her on Starfire's massive back were volunteers from a dozen species, warriors who wanted to fight alongside the legendary Phantom Queen. Elindra had spent the week since the council capital fell, reaching out to other survivors, other beings who had lost everything to the old order. Now they came together for one final battle. Starfire roared and the sound resonated through space and time. The dragon had healed from his wounds, but he was changed. His scales were darker now, tinged with shadows. His eyes burned with something that looked like sorrow mixed with determination. He had carried the weight of billions of deaths, and that weight had transformed him into something new. The dragon dove into the Zelthor formation, and his breath weapon was different than before. It was not just starlight anymore. It was something deeper, something that came from the void between dimensions. Where it touched Zelthor ships, they simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if they had never been. Elindra guided Starfire with perfect precision, her violet eyes tracking targets faster than computers could calculate. The warriors riding with her fired weapons, coordinated attacks became a symbol of what the new galaxy could be. Different species working together, united by choice rather than force. The tide turned. The Zelthor fleet, seeing their ships vanishing into nothingness, began to break formation. Some tried to flee, others fought with suicidal desperation, but they were losing and they knew it. The fleet commander made a final transmission. You think you have won. You think destroying us means the old order is dead. But there will always be those who believe in hierarchy, in the natural superiority of elder species. This war will never truly end. Lisa Morgan, watching from the command ship, responded, "You are right. There will always be those who want to dominate others, but now there will also be those who stand against them. And we will keep standing forever if necessary." The Zelthor flagship exploded in a brilliant flash. The remaining enemy ships surrendered or fled. Earth had survived its second existential threat in less than a month. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and engineers assessed damage, a ceremony was held on Earth. Representatives from 63 species gathered in what had once been the United Nations building, now expanded and rebuilt to accommodate the various forms of life. Ambassador Lauren Park stood at the podium, looking out at the diverse assembly. Humans stood beside aliens who breathed methane. Silicon-based life forms communicated with beings made of pure energy. Species that had been enemies for millennia now worked together to draft a charter. "We gather today not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals," Lauren began. The Galactic Council ruled through fear and force for millions of years. They believed some species were meant to lead and others meant to follow. They were wrong. She gestured to the assembled representatives. Every species here has something valuable to contribute. Every civilization has wisdom earned through its own unique experience. The new Galactic Alliance is founded on a simple principle. No being, no matter how old or advanced, has the right to dominate another. We will cooperate as partners. We will resolve disputes through dialogue. We will protect each other because it is right, not because we are forced to. The charter was signed by every representative present. It was not a perfect document. It would need to be amended and improved over time, but it was a start, a foundation for something better than what had come before. After the ceremony, Lisa Morgan found Elindra standing alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The elf woman was gazing at the sunset, her expression unreadable. "You did not attend the ceremony," Lisa said gently. "I did not earn the right," Elindra replied quietly. "I helped destroy the old order, but I did it through violence and death. I am not the hero people think I am. None of us are heroes. We are just people who did what we thought was necessary." Lisa stood beside her. "But you gave us a chance. You taught us the truth about the council. You helped us survive. That matters." Elindra turned to look at her. "Do you know what haunts me most? Not the council capital. I mean, yes, that haunts me. But what haunts me more is that part of me is glad they are dead. Part of me wanted revenge for my people, and I got it. That makes me exactly what I accuse the council of being. Someone who let hatred guide their actions." "No," Lisa said firmly. "The council destroyed species for wanting freedom. You destroyed the council to stop them from doing it again. Intent matters. Purpose matters. You are not a monster, Elindra. You are someone who carried an impossible burden and did the best you could with it." Tears streamed down Elindra's face. "I hope you are right. I hope the deaths I caused were not in vain." They were not. "Look." Lisa gestured at the city below, where humans and aliens walked together, learning about each other, building friendships. "This is what you fought for. A galaxy where species are free to choose their own path. Starfire landed on a platform nearby, his massive form somehow graceful despite his size. The dragon looked at Elindra with those ancient violet eyes, and she seemed to draw strength from his presence. "What will you do now?" Lisa asked. Elindra smiled, and for the first time in weeks it reached her eyes. "Starfire and I will travel. There are other species out there that the Council erased from history. Maybe some of them survived like I did, hiding in forgotten corners of the galaxy. We will find them. We will tell them it is safe to come home. And after that we will watch. We will make sure no one ever uses fear and force to dominate others again. Not the Council, not humanity, not anyone. That is our purpose now. That is how we earn redemption for the deaths we caused." Lisa understood. "You will be missed. I will return sometimes. To visit, to see how your alliance grows, to make sure you keep the promises you made today." Elindra walked toward Starfire, then paused. "Thank you, Lisa Morgan. You reminded me why the Sylvari fought. Not for power, not for revenge, but for the simple right of every species to forge its own destiny." She climbed onto Starfire's back, and the dragon spread his wings. They were magnificent, spanning wider than buildings, catching the sunset light in colors that had no names. Starfire leaped into the sky, and as he climbed higher, he began to fade. Not disappearing, but transitioning into the dimensional void where he and Elindra felt most at home. Within seconds, they were gone. Lisa watched until the last trace of violet light vanished. Then she returned inside where the real work was beginning. Building a new government, establishing trade routes, creating treaties, helping billions of displaced beings find new homes after the war. It would take generations. There would be setbacks and failures. There would be species that rejected the alliance and tried to recreate the old power structures. But for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy had hope. 6 months later, Admiral Karen White stood in the new alliance headquarters on a neutral world, watching the daily session. 200 species were represented now, all of them learning to work together. There were arguments and disagreements, but they were resolved with words instead of weapons. Captain Amy Hayes had become the head of Alliance Security, coordinating defense efforts against pirates and the few remaining Council loyalists. Engineer Nina Wells led a research division, using Sylvari technology and human innovation to develop solutions that benefited everyone. And sometimes, late at night when the galaxy seemed peaceful, people would see a flash of violet light in the sky. They would whisper about the Phantom Queen and her dragon, still out there somewhere, still watching over them, still making sure the lessons of the war were never forgotten. Humanity had abandoned diplomacy and thrown the galaxy into chaos. But from that chaos, something better had emerged. Not perfect, not peaceful, but free, and that made all the difference.